going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Loud Bostonian. Today, I'm going to be doing my review of Avengers Endgame. Avengers Endgame has been out for 2 weeks. I didn't do my review last weekend after I saw it originally because I kind of wanted to see it again to make sure that I wasn't all just hype and I didn't like it as much as I thought I did and all that stuff. So I saw it 2 times. This is going to be a completely spoiler-heavy review, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, you know, I don't know what's wrong with you. You should have gone out and seen it. But considering 2.2 million people, or billion people rather, have seen it, I'm pretty sure everybody who's going to watch this video saw it. So, totally spoiler heavy. Saw it 2 times, and after the second time I saw it, I love this movie even more than the first time I saw it. This is the greatest superhero movie ever put on the screen. I have no problem saying that. First, I thought Infinity War was better. After I left the theater the first time, I'm like, I think I like Infinity War a little better. Then after the week went on, and I was sitting with this movie and thinking about it, and thinking about all the things that I saw in it, Endgame is the best. It is so good. Everything in it is good. A lot of people I've been talking to have, they think the beginning half's a little boring, a little drawn out, a little slow. But you know what? You fucking need it. You need it to be boring and slow like that. It builds the characters up. It builds the tension up. It builds the stakes of what they need to accomplish in that third act. And man, it is so good. I love everything about it. Let's just jump right into it. The opening with Hawkeye and his family, crushing. I knew from the trailers that's exactly how the movie was going to open on them. And man, you just felt it. There weren't even that many lines of dialogue, but you just felt it, the way that he's running, as a father, running around looking for his family. Oh my God, it really hit me hard, man. My wife, who saw it with me the second time, she leans over to me and she goes, I don't think I'm going to like this movie, just because of that scene. So, you know it's good. And then from there, obviously, it just jumps into this world where we just have lost Thanos and Tony Stark's floating in space with Nebula. Nebula, by the way, great character arc in this movie. She has totally done a 180 on herself, on the character she was in the first Guardians movie. She is an absolute hero. She actually cares for these people. It's fantastic. The stuff with her and Tony was great in the beginning of the movie. Tony, obviously, Robert Downey Jr. has never played a better Iron Man or a better Tony Stark than he does in this movie. He was so believable and so good, and it really just shows that 11 years of this universe was just resting on his shoulders, and he friggin' delivered in this movie, guys. And then the story jumps to the heroes on Earth. Tony arrives. They talk about what happened. Great dialogue between all the characters. They're trying to think about what they're going to do. How are they going to undo what Thanos did? Captain Marvel's already there. Captain Marvel saves Tony and Nebula, and she's so cocky about it. She's like, we're just going to kill him. We're going to get him. We're going to kill him. And they're like, oh, it's just that easy? And she goes, yeah, it's just that easy. And then sure enough, that really is the ultimate plan. They notice that Thanos used the signature of radiation or energy or whatever that was released when he did his snap in Infinity War. A similar set of radiation or energy was located further in the galaxy on this one planet. So like, that's where he is. He used the stones again. Let's go get him. They show up, and guys, Thanos is all jacked up. And this is in the first 10 minutes of this movie. And they just kick his ass and they kill him. It's crazy. But not before he reveals to them that he used the stones to destroy the stones. And I actually think that's a really cool character moment for him, because he says, because the temptation was too great. Meaning, he doesn't like the outcome of what he did with the stones. He wants Gamora back. He realizes he screwed up, and he destroys the stone so he never has the chance to undo it himself, which I think is huge. And a lot of people probably don't even realize that, but I totally read that in the character moment for him. But it doesn't matter, because they cut his arm off, they realize the stones are gone, and then Thor cuts his head off, and he just looks at and they're like, what'd you do that for? And he's like, I went for the head. Which, honestly, Thor has such a crazy character arc in this movie. Absolute dealing with the loss and the guilt and everything that it's on his shoulders, that he lost more than any of the other Avengers, because he was the one who could have stopped him. And I think that is a fantastic building of his character, especially when you see what happens to his character. The movie then jumps 5 years later. 5 years later, people are living in the post-snap world, and yeah, the air is better. The Captain America makes a comment about seeing whales in the Hudson River, which less boats means the whale population is probably thriving. And Black Widow gives him this whole spiel about don't try to flip this into a good thing, Cap. And he's like, yeah, you're right, whatever. And Cap's story to this point is he's dealing with a survivor group, a guilt group sort of thing. And so he's telling them all to, keep hope and that move on. But obviously they can't move on. The Avengers cannot move on. And that's where Ant-Man comes into this. So Ant-Man, at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, gets trapped in the quantum realm. And then everybody on the outside, Hope and Hank Pym and his wife are dusted. They're gone, and he's trapped there. Convenient plot point, but you know what? It's a comic book movie. A rat walks across the desktop, or the controls or whatever, and kaboom, he gets launched out of the quantum realm 5 years later. He does his whole, very touch. Ant-Man has a great arc in this movie, guys. Really good arc. My favorite arc he's had in any of the movies he's been in so far. And honestly, one of my favorite arcs in the movie. But so he runs through this world. He's like, what the fuck is happening here? Blah, blah, blah. And then he goes and finds his daughter, who's still alive, but she's 5 years older. And it's a really touching reunion. He's like, oh, you're so big. And again, there's a lot of stuff that tears at the heartstrings of a dad here. So it was really emotional. And then he goes to find the Avengers because he realizes that he's only been in the quantum realm for 5 hours. Now, if he's been in there for 5 hours and he time jumps 5 years into the future, perhaps there's a way to navigate the quantum realm and jump back in the past, setting up the time travel movie. Now, we all kind of assumed it was a time travel movie. The quantum realm suits were a dead giveaway. The fact that, especially when the movie starts out, the stones are gone, so obviously time travel makes sense. But they set up good rules in this movie. They set up the rules that, and a lot of people I think are having problems with just figuring out the time rules here, but they set up their own rules in this movie. It's not Back to the Future. You can run into your old self. You can change things in the past because they set it up that nothing you change in the past affects your timeline because your timeline has already happened. So that's the whole thing they're trying to get to. Their idea of this time heist where they jump back in the past, steal the stones, and jump into the future with the stones and undo the snap and bring everybody from that timeline into the current 5 years in the future. These rules are set up by Robert Downey Jr., who in this timeline now, since coming back from from previous 5 years, has had a daughter. Him and Pepper Potts have a 5-year-old daughter, and he cannot lose her. He says, I cannot lose her. If we go back and change things, it might mean that I don't have her in my life, and I can't have that. So the whole point is you jump back, steal the stones in the timeline from the different places that they've been in the MCU, bring them to the current present in 5 years in the future, and snap everybody back into that timeline right then and there. And so that's the whole setup. And I really enjoyed that because it keeps the stakes of what happened in Infinity War because the world was decimated. People have to live with that shit. And then you just bring back the heroes and all the people, everybody that Thanos snapped away because fuck that guy and fuck him. And so I love that. But things go awry in this timeline that they've set up because Nebula, who's one of the time travelers that's going to go back with them, her conscience shares a network with past Nebula. So 2014, Nebula is on a ship with Thanos and Gamora, and her memories get synced up, and they're able to figure out that there are time travelers trying to get the Infinity Stones before Thanos can get them, so that they can undo what he did. That is crazy because it sets off this past Thanos. Because remember, guys, Thanos is already dead in the present future. They've already killed him. But this past Thanos hasn't accomplished anything yet. So he sees this as a major threat, and he does everything in his power to stop them. And it's great because you really don't have any interaction with them until the third act, where you realize that past Nebula has been swapped with the future Nebula, and she jumps into our timeline and brings her father through. And man, it is destructive and crazy. And I'm getting ahead of myself though, guys, because the time heist is really cool. All these different teams split up to go look for these different stones. They realized that at one point in New York in 2012, which is when the first Avengers movie took place, that the Space Stone, the Time Stone, and the Mind Stone are all in one spot in New York. So one team of Cap, Ant-Man, Iron Man, and Hulk go back to get those stones. It's pretty cool, especially the stuff with the Hulk, because Hulk in this movie, guys, by the way, I haven't even touched on this. It is Smart Hulk or Mr. Fix-It or whatever from the comics. It's Bruce Banner has, in the 5 years, realized that he was treating Hulk like an enemy, like a disease, instead of realizing that he could be the solution. So he takes time to study the gamma works and is able to merge his mind with the Hulk's body perfectly. So now you have Smart Hulk the whole movie, which It was a little jarring to me at first, but upon watching it, I really liked it. And you really get to Mark Ruffalo gets to act the whole movie, which is great. But his story when he jumps back in the past is he's going for the time stone. So he goes back to Bleecker Street to try and get it from Doctor Strange, who's not Doctor Strange yet. He's still doing surgery in this timeline. So the Sorceress Supreme, Tilda Swinton was there, and she's like, I can't give you this stone. That is crazy. And then this whole run around. And he goes, well, why did Strange give the stone up then? And she's like, whoa. Stephen Strange gives up the time stone, and she's got no idea of this, obviously. And she's like, well, if he gave it up, there has to be a reason for it. He's meant to be the best of us. So she willingly gives it to Hulk, and he promises her that the plan is they are going to jump back into the past after they've used the stones and put them back exactly where they took them. So that way there are no branch realities, because the Sorcerer Supreme goes into this big spiel about how in taking the stones out of their timelines, you're going to create branch realities, and there's no way to close them. And he promises that if you bring them back, those branch realities never happen. And she agrees, gives him the time stone. Ant-Man and Tony are supposed to go for the Space Stone, and everything goes great. They get it, and you see what happens right after the events of the first Avengers movie. You see the cleanup crew come and take the Space Stone, and it's the guys from Winter Soldier that are actually Hydra agents. Oh, it's awesome. And then they take the Mind Stone, which is Loki's scepter. So there's a great thing with Cap where he gets in the elevator with those guys, and they're like, oh, it's exactly one for one the shot from Winter Soldier. It's fantastic. And so he's sitting there, and you think he's going to fight these guys again. He's going to fight, and how are they going to get around it? And then he leans into one of the guys, and he goes, I'm going to take the scepter, guys. I got an order from up above. And they're like, well, you can't take the scepter, Cap. Well, because they're Hydra agents. They want it. And he goes, oh, don't worry, I got it, guys. Leans in and goes, Hail Hydra. Oh, it's so good. And you see him just walk off the elevator with it because they have no idea. They think they've just been convinced that Captain America is a member of Hydra. So it's fucking crazy. And he gets it and he walks off. Not before he has a fight with past Captain America who thinks he's Loki escaped. And that's great. And he ends up getting out of that fight and walking away with the Time Stone and the Mind Stone, and no problems there. But Tony and Ant-Man lose the Space Stone because they get it. It was a great thing where they end up like causing past Tony Stark. Ant-Man causes past Tony Stark to have a heart attack by jumping into his reactor and pulling a thing, and Thor has to revive him with a lightning bolt. And he goes, I didn't know it was going to work. I didn't know it was going to work. He brings it back. There's great humor in this movie. You wouldn't think a movie as sad and stuff like this would be like this, but so they're able to get the Space Zone, the Tesseract, and then as they're leaving, the Hulk from that timeline just smashes a door open, knocks future Tony Stark out. They lose the Tesseract because Loki picks it up off the floor and disappears, creating a branch reality. So Loki has his own TV show coming out, but obviously he's dead in present time. So how are they going to do that? Easy. Branch reality Loki. That's the TV show. I love it. I think it's fantastic. This causes a huge problem. By the way, that door hitting scene, there's a lot of jokes in here about Back to the Future and how Back to the Future is bullshit. That's straight out of Back to the Future when Marty McFly gets knocked out by past Marty McFly, and like it creates this whole thing. So I love that. I think that is it's a great nod to that movie. And so they lose the Space Zone. They're freaking out. They don't know what to do. They only have enough Pym particles to take one more jump through the quantum realm back to present time. Everybody else is off getting their stones. So what are they going to do? Cap and Tony have an idea. Let's jump back to 1970 because the SHIELD base in 1970 both has Hank Pym working there with Pym particles and the Tesseract on site. I had a little bit of difficulty remembering what movie addresses this. Maybe in Winter Soldier when they go to this base, it says that the Tesseract was there and the Pym particles were there. But I don't know. I think that would be really great writing if they knew at that point that they were doing this. But it was Marcus McFeely wrote that movie too, so it was a good chance of it. And the Russo brothers directed it, so maybe it was all the way back then they had a plan. But again, it doesn't matter. They were there, so that's the plan. They jump back. Great scenes there. They get Tony Stark gets to interact with his father, who's going home because his wife's expecting Tony, and they have a great like father talk where they're saying like, Tony tells him, I always thought my father was hard on me, but I realized that he actually loved me a great deal, and everything he did was to make me a better person, and all this such great heartwarming stuff. And then Cap, he gets to have he sneaks into this one room when he thinks he's being found out, and sure enough, he gets to see Peggy Carter, and she's alive and well, and that he doesn't even get to interact with her. It's such a character of him to not be able to. So he doesn't get to interact with her. He gets the Pym particles. Tony gets his Tesseract. They jump back to the present. the other missions that are going on. Rocket Raccoon and Thor. Thor, by the way, guys, didn't get to address this yet. Fat Thor. Yes, Fat Thor from the comics is brought fully into this movie. The 5 years since he killed Thanos have not been kind to him. He's depressed. He's horribly fat. and he's fat the whole movie. You thought like, oh, maybe when he powers up later, he'll thin out. No. He's Fat Thor the entire movie. And I loved it. I thought it was great. It fit his character so well. And his arc of just being depressed and not knowing what to do is fantastic. Anyways, him and Rocket are responsible for getting the reality stone, the ether. So they jump back to Thor the Dark World. And I gotta tell you, I never was a huge fan of Thor the Dark World. But now that this movie really addresses it and makes it a big part of this plot, I love it. It makes me think that maybe that movie's a little better than it was. So that's the whole thing. He jumps back. He gets to see his mother, who she's going to die on this day in Thor the Dark World, and he wants to talk to her. He's unsure of himself. So instead of going through with the plan, he runs off and finds his mother, and she's got this great talk with him. She says, you need to stop trying to be who everyone expects you to be and be who you are. And it's a great interaction. He's crying the whole time. Rocket's able to get the reality stone out of Jane Foster, who Natalie Portman makes a cameo in this movie again. He ends up extracting it from her, running back to them. They're getting ready to jump back to the timeline, and then suddenly Thor goes, wait, and he goes like this, extends the hand, and the Mjolnir, which is still alive, his hammer in this timeline, hasn't been destroyed yet, comes flying to his hand, and he jumps into the future with it. Awesome right there. I love that he got the hammer back. And then the other groupings are Rhodey and Nebula are going to steal the Power Stone before Peter Quill gets it. And in that same timeline, they all jump to the same space location. You have Black Widow and Hawkeye going across to get this Soul Stone. So the Peter Quill one ends up pretty quickly. It's funny that Rhodey and her are watching him do his little dance thing from the beginning, and it's great because then it pans out and you hear him, just Peter Quill singing it because he's got the headphones on, but they don't hear the music, and he's just like, it's like, come and get your love. It's great. And then Rhodey looks at Nebula and he goes, so he's an idiot. And she goes, yes, he's an idiot. And so they end up knocking him out and stealing the Power Stone, and Rhodey jumps to the future. But this is exactly where the neural link happens between both Nebulas. So Thanos is on them, and she doesn't get to escape, and they capture Nebula. So that's where that takes place. Then you jump to the Soul Stone arc, right? And Hawkeye, at this point in the movie, has been murdering a bunch of Yakuzas and a bunch of gangsters across the world. He has a great line where he tells a Yakuza agent Yakuza criminal before he kills him that half the population's gone. Thanos killed people that deserve to live. They got Thanos, you get me, is what he's saying to these criminals that don't deserve to be here when good people are gone. So he's murdering people left and right, leaving trails of bodies. Black Widow convinces them to come back and that there's a chance for them to undo this. And he says, don't give me hope. And she goes, I wish I could have given it to you sooner. And so they jump into this timeline. So he's actually the first one to test the time travel theory out. So he jumps back to his family, or where his family is in the farm, and sure enough, he is able to he doesn't see his family's alive, but he can hear that they're alive. He's able to steal a baseball glove and bring it back to the present. That's how they know that this time heist is possible. So as a result of this, these two are off to get the Soul Stone. As we know from Infinity War, the Soul Stone requires somebody to lose a life in order to get it. You got to kill somebody you care about. Thanos had to kill Gamora, and now one of them is going to have to kill the other to get the Soul Stone. And Red Skull's there again, just like before, tells them all this has to happen. The two of them decide, well, one of us has to die, and they're both pretty much convinced that it's them that should die. So they have this little tussle as they're stopping each other from going, and then it ends up with Hawkeye jumping off the cliff. And then you think, oh, well, he's all screwed up anyways from murdering all these people. So it should have been him. But then Black Widow jumps off after him, grabs onto him, and hooks him up to the top of the mountain so that he can't fall. And it's her hanging there. And it's a great interaction where she's saying, like, let me go. I have to undo this. Like, this is everything in her past, everything that she ever did was about this family, the Avengers, and everything, and how it changed her for the better, and that this is what she needs to do. And sure enough, she just jumps off of him and falls to her death, ultimately becoming part of the Soul Stone. Hawkeye ends up with the Soul Stone. They all jump back to the present day, and they have all the stones. Natasha didn't make it, and it's very sad. Nebula in this timeline now is not our Nebula. She is the past Nebula who is working for Thanos, and the whole plan is that she's going to bring him into the present, and she does. She shoots him right through their time hole into the present, and his ship, his gigantic ship, is just hovering over the Avengers facility. It's fucking crazy. Meanwhile, just as this is happening, the other Avengers are off assembling which is essentially a Tony Stark Iron Man type glove to collect all the Soul Stones. They're trying to decide who's going to use it. Thor says it should be him. He's powerful, blah, blah, blah. And Robert Downey Jr. tells him, look, you're messed up, dude. You are messed up right now. You're not the one who's going to do this. You're not thinking clearly. It can't be you. And they're trying to figure out who it's going to be. And Hulk says, it's going to be me. I'm the only one powerful enough to take it. And it's mostly gamma radiation, so I think I can. So he puts his hand in, and they go, remember, all you're doing is snapping people, that you're undoing the snap and bringing them back to this present timeline. So he gets the glove on. It's very difficult for him to control, and he snaps. And they don't know if it works or anything yet. But then Ant-Man notices a couple birds flying in the, I don't know what you'd call it, a garden area of the thing. Birds that were not there just before that, tons of them. And he notices it. And suddenly a cell phone's ringing. And Hawkeye takes a look, and he walks over to it, and it's his wife's phone, and it's super emotional, guys, super emotional. I cried 3 times during this movie. Once when Black Widow, every time I saw it. Once when Black Widow died. Once, and I tear up when Hawkeye answers that phone, and Jeremy Renner does such a good job delivering this. Not many lines. He just goes, hello, and he's like, hey. Oh man, it's truthfully how you'd react. And his wife was on the other end of the phone, and the snap worked. They brought everybody back. So then, before they have any chance to even celebrate, Thanos' ship just rains fire down the Avengers mansion and destroys everything in sight. This place is a goddamn wreck. The sky's full of dust, and it's horrible. And Thanos beams himself down, and he's just waiting for the Avengers. He's going to fight them all, is his plan. So then you cut to the different groups inside the mansion that are destroyed. Ant-Man's okay. He shrunk down just as the missiles hit. Hawkeye is in like a subterranean like sewer kind of thing with the glove. The glove is right there. So he's got the goddamn Infinity Gauntlet. Hulk is underneath all this rubble holding up what is falling on them. And sure enough, Rocket Raccoon's pinned under there. Rhodey's pinned under there. Tony and Cap and Thor are at the surface level of this explosion, and they basically, all 3 of them are like, let's go fuck this guy up. He's waiting for us. Let's go fuck him up. So they go down to fight Thanos, and I gotta tell you, you figure without the Infinity Stones that he wouldn't be much to deal with, because they kind of were on somewhat equal path with him when he had the Infinity Stones. This Thanos is way more aggressive and cruel and rude than the original one, and the heroes are not in the best place. They just survived a building falling on them. Thor is fat and out of shape and not the fighter he was years past, so it's pretty much Thanos against them. Thanos almost has an upper hand. So they begin to have this fight, and Hawkeye's making his way to the surface with the glove, and all the 4-armed creatures from Infinity War are attacking him, and he's able to get to the surface and destroy the creatures that are after him. And then Nebula from the past shows up, steals the glove, and she reveals who she is by saying, "Father, I have the glove." But then Gamora and Nebula from our Nebula and past Gamora team up and confront this Nebula before she gets to get away with the glove. They kill her. And like I said, nothing in the past affects our timeline, so that doesn't mean our Nebula is dead, which is great. So they end up killing her, and they got to make their way out with this glove. They got to try to get away, and this fight's happening between the big 3 and Thanos, and Thanos is pretty much wiping the floor with them. He knocks Iron Man out. He's kind of kicking Thor's ass big time. He knocks Cap out, and then he's got Thor's axe, which he catches and kind of pulls at him. Which I thought, I'm not sure if the same enchantment's on the axe that it's on the hammer. I guess it never really said it was that only Thor could use it, but again, they don't really address that. But he gets the axe. He kind of starts bringing it down into Thor's chest, similar to what Thor did to him in the last movie. And you think Thor's done for at this point. And then all of a sudden you see the hammer just lifting and goes flying at Thanos and knocks him back. And you think, oh, maybe Thor just pulled it. But no. That hammer comes flying right back into the hands of Captain America. That's right. They addressed that little nod that was in Age of Ultron, and Cap is able to wield Mjolnir. He's worthy of it. And Thor goes, I knew it. And then Thanos just knocks him flying. And then you get Cap one-on-one with the hammer and the shield against Thanos. And he fucks Thanos up for a good bit there. And he's bringing lightning down and everything. Because, again, people might have a problem with that because you're like, well, he could use the hammer, but how does he control the lightning? The magical, like, spell on Mjolnir is whomsoever is worthy, or whomsoever holds his hammer, be they worthy, it will have the power of Thor. The power of Thor, God of Thunder. So he's able to bring lightning down on Thanos. Like, he really, like, goes top, and he uses the shield and the hammer in tandem, like, throws the shield past him, hits the fucking hammer on the shield, makes that boom sound, knocks Thanos flying. He's really going at him, and it was such an awesome hero moment. Would have been the best in the movie, except for what comes later. And so he's going toe-to-toe with him, and then Thanos gets the upper hand, starts cutting the shield away, and, like, really fucks Cap up big time. And Cap's the only one standing. Thanos brings his entire army down. Entire army. Everything that you saw in the last movie, plus characters. And they are set loose to basically go against Captain America, because he's the only one standing. Cap stands up. You see it in the trailer. He tightens the shield. Mano a mano. Well, not even mano a many against all of Thanos' army. And then you hear come through his speaker, Cap, can you hear me? He's like, what? And he stops. He goes, Cap, Sam, the Falcon, is alive and well. He doesn't know it. He didn't know it yet. And then he goes, on your left, call back the Winter Soldier when Cap was running past Sam, when they were running across the Washington Monument. And he just kept saying, on your left, and then you see this portal open up, and you see Black Panther come through. You see Shuri and Okoye come through. You see Falcon come through, and all these characters that you thought were dead, and then all these portals start opening. And this is the hero. Dude, I literally bawled like a baby when this was happening the second time I saw it. I got teary the first time, but I bawled. It's so beautiful. All the heroes come back, and they're all coming into Earth to fight this fight. You see the Guardians of the Galaxy step through. You see Spider-Man swing through. You see Doctor Strange come through. Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. All these heroes who you thought were gone come through and join the fight, get behind Cap. And our regular heroes come back too. All like Cap's Iron Man's back up, Thor's back up, and they're standing there next to Cap. And then just as you think, like, oh, I forget who says that. Doctor Strange talks to Wong and he says, did you bring them all? And he goes, you wanted more? And then all of a sudden you just see from inside the mansion, because Rhodey and Rocket and Hulk were basically dying underneath this mansion, but you saw Ant-Man jump down to save them. Boom, the fucking Avengers mansion opens up, and Giant Man is standing there holding the heroes. And oh man, it got me. I'm getting emotional just talking about it. But it's so beautiful. And basically it comes back to Cap, who goes, Avengers, assemble, which he's never said the line in any of the movies. And it's beautiful. And they all rush, all the Asgardians, everybody who was snapped away, who could join the fight is there. Korg is there. Valkyrie's there. Pepper Potts shows up in the rescue armor. Oh man, it is so beautiful. And they rush at this army, and this giant Lord of the Rings style fight is happening between all these characters. And oh my God, guys, it is fantastic. It is so beautiful. And this fight takes place, and they're kicking their asses, and Hawkeye's trying to get the glove to, because the time machine was destroyed, but the old quantum realm generator in Ant-Man's van is still there. So the goal is to get this thing out of this timeline. We'll throw it into the generator or whatever, and then it will just send it to the past, and we'll sort it out after that or whatever, so that Thanos can't get his hand on it. And oh my God, this fight is immense, guys. It is crazy. And Iron Man gets to meet up with Peter Parker again, who he has felt so emotional about letting die. He gives him a hug. He just holds him, and Peter Parker, oh, this is nice. It's really sweet, guys. such good moments like that all through the entire fight. Ant-Man, when he's Giant Man, he punches one of those flying snake things from the first Avengers movie and takes it out, and then he squashes that Black Dwarf, or they didn't call him that in the movie because I thought it was racist or something, but the big hulky character that was one of Thanos' generals, crushes him under his foot. It's so many good moments like that, so many good hero moments. It's fantastic. And then just as you think Thanos is like kind of starting to get the ground on them a little bit, Scarlet Witch shows up. And she's like, and she goes, "You took everything from me." He goes, "I don't even know who you are." And he rushes at her. She goes, "You will." And she basically fucks him up. She hits him with all these rubble and then just grabs him and is like basically ripping him apart, like from here. And he tells him, "Oh, rain fire down." And she goes, "What about our troops?" He goes, "Just do it." He's fucking dying. Who cares about his troops? So the ship starts shooting on the Avengers, and they gotta kind of take a pause. And all the sorcerers that are there with Doctor Strange are opening up portals to protect the heroes from being shot at. And out of the skies, Captain Marvel, who has been off planet this whole movie, shows up, destroys Thanos' ship in like 2 cut-throughs. And Thanos is like, "Oh my god, like what the ship's down. His fucking troops are getting like destroyed. He needs that glove." And Peter Parker's trying to get it to the generator, and then Captain Marvel picks it up, and all these heroes kind of do this like hot potato scene where they're handing it off. It ends up with Captain Marvel, who's almost at the generator, and Thanos throws his double-bladed sword thing into the generator, and it blows up, and he's able to get a hold of the gauntlet. And then all these heroes are fighting him for the gauntlet, and it's so extreme, guys. And Captain Marvel goes toe-to-toe with them, basically, like, even with the gauntlet. And, like, she's getting ready to snap her fingers, and she just stops him and holds it. And he freaking headbutts her, and she doesn't move. And she just smiles at him, starts bending his fingers back, and he's fucked. He's like, "Oh my god, no." And then he sneakily manages to rip the Power Stone off the glove and punch her with his other hand. And so she goes flying. She's knocked out. And this is the one chance. Tony asked Doctor Strange, he goes, "In the realities you saw, is this the one chance?" And he says, "I can't tell you, because if I do, it won't happen." But sure enough, as is happening, Tony is the closest to Thanos as he's getting the glove back. And he looks at Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange just goes like this. One. This is the one chance. Tony knows what he needs to do. He flies at Thanos, gets a hand on the glove, and he's not powerful enough to take him. He knows this. But the glove is made of nanoparticles, and Tony's armor is made of nanoparticles. So he is able to transfer the stones to his own hand. And Thanos knocks him away, does a snap. Nothing happens because the stones are no longer on his glove. And he looks at Tony Stark, and he says, for the second time in the movie, "I'm inevitable." And Tony says, "I am Iron Man." And he snaps his fingers and destroys all of Thanos' army. All of his ships. He blinks Thanos and the people he brought with him and the ships he brought with him out of existence. So now the entire timelines on Thanos are wrapped up. He's done. His army is dusting. And Thanos sits down at the end. Obviously, he's the last one to dust. And he just dusts, knowing that he failed. And he never got, and that even though he did get his snap, because he knows the snap works. This is why he's there fighting these people. It didn't work in the end, and that he lost, and his purpose was for nothing. And it's beautiful, and he dusts. But then you cut to Tony, who is badly decimated by this snap. They've set it up in other movies that a single human is not powerful enough to use the snap. It would kill them. And sure enough, Rhodey is the first one there, kind of petting him, or not petting him, like holding him up, and he's like, it's okay. Peter Parker comes over, very emotional. He goes, "Mr. Stark, we did it, Mr. Stark. You saved everybody." And oh my God, I was a wreck at this point too. And he's like, it's okay. Peter's crying. Tom Holland is such a good actor. And it's great. And he's like, "You saved everybody. You did it." And then he can't even talk. Tony can't even talk. And then Pepper Potts shows up, kind of gently shoves Peter aside, sits there looking at Tony, and he says, and she's, without crying, she looks at him and she says, "You did it, Tony. It's okay. We're going to be okay. You can rest now." And Tony dies right there. And then Pepper is an emotional wreck. And that line's a callback to the beginning of the movie where he says that if he didn't do this time travel thing, would he be able to rest knowing that he could have saved everyone? And he says, and they don't address that question. They don't answer it. But in the end, he's able to rest because he brought everybody back. He saved everybody. It's a callback to the first Avengers movie where are you able to lay yourself on the line? lay on the wire so that you could have somebody crawl over you. You're not that guy, is what Cap says to him. It took 10 years, but he is that guy. He did it. He laid himself on the line to save everybody. And I bawled, and it's getting me right now, too. But I love the movie so much, and it's great. And they wrap up all these characters' arcs very well. Thor decides that he no longer is, he's going to try to live for himself. He's not going to try to be who he's meant to be. He's just going to be who he is. And he needs to find himself in order to do that. He leaves the new Asgardians with Valkyrie running them because she's awesome, and she's totally capable of running the ship for Asgard on Earth now. So that's beautiful. And then he goes off with the Guardians of the Galaxy, which is awesome because he walks on the ship and he's like, oh, the Asgardians of the Galaxy, which is awesome. It's so funny. And he's got a great back and forth with Quill, where Quill's like, well, you know that I'm the captain. And he's like, yeah. Sure, you're the captain. Everybody knows you're the captain. Oh, it's so funny. Such funny moments. And so I don't know if Thor's going to be in Guardians 3, but he fucking better, because that is a crazy good storyline to just ignore. And I think that it's totally gonna make Guardians 3 so much better if they have him. So they better lock him up with that, because I'll tell you right now, if they don't, I'll be pissed. I want to see it. Everybody wants to see it. I think they know it. It'll make Guardians 3 a massive hit. Not that it already wouldn't have been, but it'll be so much bigger if you get Thor on there. And I hope he's not skinny Thor. I hope he's in between fat and skinny Thor, because that'll make for great great comedic timings and stuff like that. So that's great. They wrap him up. Cap's the last story you got to wrap up. Cap is the character who's going to go back in time and place all of the Infinity Stones back where they belong, as well as placing Thor's hammer back in his past and all that stuff. So he does that. And then you get Bucky, Sam, and Hulk, who sent him back. And then sure enough, Cap doesn't come back. They're waiting it's like, oh, it'll be, as long as he wants, it'll be about 5 seconds in our timeline, they say. They send him back, and then they go to bring him back, and he doesn't come back. Sam's freaking out. Where is he? Winter Soldier, not freaking out, because I believe Cap told him his plan ahead of time. That's why they have a kind of somber goodbye, like, you're taking all the idiot with you, and good luck, that sort of thing. So you believe Cap told Bucky that he wasn't coming back. And sure enough, it pans over to Bucky noticing somebody sitting on a bench near them, an old man. They walk over to it. Sure enough, it is old man Captain America. And he tells them all that Sam asked me, he goes, did something go wrong or did something go right? Because he notices that Cap looks happy, and he tells him, something went very right. I got a little bit of that life that Tony was asking me to get. And it's beautiful, man. It really is. And Cap was able to stay in the past after returning all the Infinity Stones and be with Peggy Carter, the love of his life, the person he never got a chance to be with. And yeah, maybe it creates a little bit of a branch reality. I'm not really sure, because I think he falls into the timeline because technically he's on the under ice for 70 years. So in that timeline, he could have just lived with Peggy. And I don't know if it ever addressed that Peggy's husband wasn't Cap either, which I like. So I don't know. I think it wrapped up very well. And I'd like to go into more spoilers and have a real discussion about this with my buddies in the future, so look out for that episode. This went way longer than I intended it to, but I loved Avengers Endgame, and I think it is the best superhero movie ever made. It deserves all the money it's making, and I sincerely hope that down the line we get more Avengers movies with new Avengers characters, because I would love to see what that represents and what that's going to be. No idea who the bad guys are going to be in the future. Kang the Conqueror is a good one. Timeline villain, time-traveling villain, kind of works with the world they've set up now from an alternate timeline, the one with Loki maybe. I don't know. But anyways, that's going to do it for me, guys. I loved Avengers Endgame. I want to know what you thought. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments what your favorite part of the movie was, if you loved it, if it's your favorite, if it's where it stands in your Marvel lineup now. But thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next week.